riding the elevator, and the neighbors were roaming. It's hard to work.
Thank you very much for coming out. Our thanks to Unitron for hosting us. This is a very wonderful space. Timely. There are drinks at the back, so please, there's pizza there. There are drinks in the fridge and cafe at the back, so please help yourself to those. So thank you to the team for Unitron. I'm very interested actually to hear this evening. I think that Unitron is a startup really in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, Cambridge, Kitchener-Waterloo area. And certainly I think through my medtech career, the kind of hearing technology, medtech is not something that really had great exposure to or understanding of. So I think it's very interesting to see what we learn collectively tonight. I think it's also a very international group here, so yeah, I'm fascinated to learn more about this organisation. It's also Better Speech and Hearing Month, so it seems incredibly timely for us to be here. So hence, accordingly, yeah, so there's at Unitron Global and Hearing Matters as a hashtag in addition to the ones that you are familiar with that we have ourselves. And then one of the things I wanted to do was to play a very short video, it's about a minute and a half. Through some of these cafes, we appreciate that some of you have been part of this health community for, I don't know, maybe 3 years or so, and others of you are new, or kind of dipped in and out occasionally, which is fantastic. So I think over some of the cafes, we will try and not teach you, but help inform you maybe a little bit about what the Hacking Health organisation is in a more kind of global sense, and some of what they're doing. So I thought I'd start off, some of you might have seen this video, but I thought I'd start off by allowing you just to watch this short video sort of promotional clip.
There are different challenges now than what there were, 50 years ago, so we need to adapt.
So let's just run an experiment. Let's bring a bunch of doctors together, a bunch of designers and developers, and see if they can work together in a creative space.
People who probably would have never met each other or come in contact with each other can come into the same place and share ideas and form small teams and build something.
If we don't put the IT people and the healthcare people together, no one's going to know what the ideas are and what's possible.
We're trying to build an app for moms and their families that helps them connect with local resources to help them and their babies stay healthy.
You get to work in a group on something that everybody's passionate about.
And you never really know what's going to come out of an event like Hacking Health, but it's always exciting and secretive.
That's pretty cool. They're working on a new video as well, which will come in due course. Now, I was lucky enough to drive 6 hours to Ottawa for the Health Innovation Programme kind of hackathon that they had. And they took a little bit of a different take on it, and there's some ideas there that I'm sure we will kind of take forward. So their idea was rather than just do that sort of 48-hour kind of Friday, Saturday, Sunday hackathon, which this was, but they had also kind of preceded it with a series of actually about 6 short workshops, and we've just been a kind of an evening like now, or half day, and slowly built up in terms of what that design thinking was, and so that by the time people actually launched into the full hackathon idea, they had a little bit of pre-exposure to it. And then they're actually doing another one, so they've had the hackathon, which was where this photo was taken, and then in the next week or so, they're actually going to do another workshop. So for some of those that won, in terms of how to link with incubators and accelerators and what resources are out there, and yeah, I just thought it was a very, looking really at that sort of go-to-market commercialization approach. But yeah, so that they've evolved this whole kind of hackathon kind of idea into more of a program. So one plug, and then we're going to kind of go on to look at our speakers. So at the end of May, so on May the 30th, we have True North. I think most of you have probably now come across that through various communications. But we've been approached and asked if we could do a special Hacking Health Cafe. So we're doing one on May 30th as a special Hacking Health Cafe at the City of Kitchener City Hall. And we have lined up 4 speakers. I'll tell you a bit more about that later. But 4 speakers really is a showcase of kind of the best of health tech in Kitchener-Waterloo. So more later. One final plug before I introduce our first speaker, and that is if you haven't kind of come across this yet, if you go to hacking-health.ca or just Google Hacking Health, you'll get to the Hacking Health website. And on that Hacking Health website, there is this document, it's a yearbook 2017, and that's a very quick kind of infographic read and tells you a little bit about, again, the Hacking Health, both philosophy and some of the success stories, and also really how international this whole movement really is, which is what I would really refer to it as. I want to turn over actually now to Galen. Galen, Senior Manager for Software Solutions at Unitron. Now, part of, you've got the bios in front of you, but part of Galen's expertise has been resulted in a Patient Insights Unitron branded feature which employs patient feedback to improve hearing experiences, and I find that fascinating about listening to that customer kind of insights. You live in Kitchener, wife, 3 kids, 2 cats and a hedgehog.
Doesn't everybody? So yeah, I want to give a quick overview here to the concept of creating a patient monitoring system, which is, as I'll talk about, is what we call Patient Insights here at Unitron. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the system that we've created. This is something we've been working on for the past few years, and also talk a little bit of some of the challenges that we've seen as part of that, some of the interesting things that we've run across. This is from my perspective. I'm an R&D guy. So this isn't a marketing job. This isn't. This is really looking at what we've created and more than necessarily the how we'd sell it in the market and these kinds of things. So there we go. So what is patient monitoring? It's probably a concept some of you are familiar with. I don't know if you're all familiar with it. So I've got a couple of definitions here. According to Wikipedia, remote patient monitoring is a technology to enable monitoring of patients outside of conventional clinical settings, which may increase access to care and decrease healthcare delivery costs. This, I would say, is a particularly exciting definition. It essentially says you're going to monitor something when they're not in your clinic. I then did some more searching and found the Center for Connected Health Policy. And they describe remote patient monitoring as something that uses digital technologies to collect medical and other forms of health data from individuals in one location and electronically transmit that information securely to healthcare providers in a different location for assessment and recommendations. That's a mouthful. There's also lots of really interesting information there. So it talks about collecting data from patients, talks about electronically doing that. It also talks about transmitting that information and the fact that somebody can then do assessment and recommendations outside of the clinical environment. And that's, as I said, that's what we've been working on now for a few years here at Unitron. So I'll give a short overview then of our Patient Insight system, which is a patient monitoring system for hearing aids. So I'll start off, this can make it a little bit complicated. I apologize if it does. I have that tendency in life. So I'm going to start off with a very short overview of our system landscape here, and then I'll talk more about the individual pieces that we've put together as part of the system. So first of all, simple, easy. We have a hearing aid. Our hearing aids, as of about 2.5 months ago, have Bluetooth embedded inside them, so you can connect your hearing aids directly from your mobile phone. You can stream phone calls, you can remote control, etc. You then have what we call fitting software, which is the software which is used to configure and adjust those hearing aids in a clinical environment. So this is used by a hearing healthcare professional. And 5 years ago, this actually I'd be done now. Go on to the next person, that's all there really was. There was hearing aids, you go to the office, they'd adjust the hearing aids in the office, and then you go home, and a month later you go back for a follow-up visit, and then you go annually, and that would be the end of the story. But it's not anymore the end of the story. So after the patient goes home, they now have access to a remote control on their mobile phone. So they can adjust, this is a volume slider here. You can mute the hearing aids, they can choose what they're listening to, the listening environment. And there's even a little smiley face here that they can use to, they can press that button to provide feedback about how overall the system's performing for them. Then we get a little bit technical, but basically all this data goes up into the famous cloud that's up there. So you have data from the remote control that goes up, and then it comes back into the fitting software. And finally, as a professional, we have a special view, and we have a special portal for them to basically see the monitoring data. This is a specific view to see the monitoring data for all of their patients, which is located on the web. So now I'll go through a little bit more to see what kinds of data we collect and what can we do with that data in order to actually help people. So, yes, before that I'll do a very brief history. In the spring of 2016, we released Patient Insights, the first version of it. This was, I think it's fair to say, really, again, this was a minimum viable product, using the techie speak there. It was a limited version, but it was enough for us to learn a lot over the subsequent years. So over the 2 years that followed, we did a lot of, we learned a lot, we tweaked a lot, we improved a lot, and we kind of figured out a lot of the things that we'd done wrong in the first place, and there was no shortage of things we did wrong. And then in the spring of 2018, so about 2 months ago, we launched the second version, the second significant version of this, which is a much, much better and more advanced system than we created a couple years ago. The purpose of this system, just to be clear, because especially we were just talking some about, the hearables and over-the-counter devices and these kinds of things. I want to be clear that the purpose of our patient monitoring system that we've created is to increase the connection between the healthcare provider, an audiologist or hearing aid dispenser, and the patient who's using the hearing aid. So that's the goal of this. So it's to increase the engagement and the connection between these people. So the patient's at home. There are other steps as well, but we'll skip straight to the stuff that's interesting. You have a patient that's at home, they have their remote control here on their phone, and they decide to press the little happy face there because they want to provide some feedback to their clinician. Ask them, hey, tell us about your listening experience. Good, bad? What situation are you in right now? We're talking about acoustics. We don't actually care where you are. It doesn't matter if it's too much. We care what kind of environment you are. Is it a quiet environment? Is it a noisy environment? Are you listening to music? And, let us know a little bit about that. And then you say, oh, done, thank you very much. This is just your opportunity now that you've used to submit and provide feedback to your professional about the current status and whether or not the hearing aids are working for you. And this is a very proactive thing that can be done. But what's really cool, where the technology comes in really cool here, is that we haven't only just submitted the data that you've personally entered, but as you're going through this, as you're entering that data, your phone is actually reaching out to your hearing aids, and it's collecting data from the hearing aids as well. So we can now actually compare where you might have said you were in a quiet conversation, but your hearing aids think you were listening to music. So maybe you thought it was quiet, but actually there was background music on, and that could explain why maybe it wasn't a particularly good situation and you weren't hearing particularly well. So we can combine this data and ultimately provide feedback through that. So this is one form that we have of providing data. This is one of the few data types that we have. But we also want less of an in-the-moment rating. We also want to generally know how satisfied you are. Everything you buy today, you get an email a day later. If you buy something from Amazon, a day later you get asked how you liked it, and then 2 days later they'll ask you again. And every day you're getting a question. So we want to join the club. We felt left out. So we're also sending out emails to people. So particularly in the first couple of weeks after receiving your hearing aids, I think you get one 2 days and 10 days after your after initially getting the hearing aids. We're going to just send an email to you, and it'll say, hey, how are you enjoying your hearing aids? You have a link, it takes you to a simple website, rate on a scale of 0 to 10, put in a comment, we say thank you very much. So now we have some information. We have two types of information. We have some proactive information from the patient in specific situations. We have some slightly more reactive data about their overall happiness with the products that they purchased. But that's not done. We have one more type of data. Because we have this continual Bluetooth connection to the hearing aids, we can periodically read out some objective data from the hearing instruments as well. Peter mentioned something about how people get hearing aids and only wear them for 1 or 2 hours a day. Well, in most cases, that's not enough. So we can now periodically read out from the hearing aids and say, and upload that data as well to our overall system, so now we also know how much people are actually wearing their hearing aids, and as well know what situations they're wearing their hearing aids in. Are they mainly wearing quiet situations, or are they wearing the noisy situations? Because all that information is continually tracked by the hearing aid itself. I don't have any pictures of this, like the other ones, because it's kind of the background, and it's actually not done yet. We're still working on it. So that's cool. So we've got a few different sets. It's actually, I would say in 2018 for our industry, it's actually a nice set of data that we just collected. What do we do with it? What do we do? We just have this data, it sits there, somebody can maybe look at it. Really, is that very interesting? So we also have some proactive counseling tools. Some of you may know this concept. It's called email. And what we do is we will send emails to the healthcare provider. So we'll basically detect situations where we are anticipating or where we believe probably the patient is struggling. If the patient has submitted a few negative ratings, we'll send an email to their healthcare provider. If they've gone and they've said their overall satisfaction with their hearing aids isn't very high, we'll send an email to their healthcare provider. If their satisfaction has dropped, we'll send an email to their healthcare provider. Once we've completed the aspect of actually reading out periodically how much people are wearing their hearing aids. If you're only wearing your hearing aids for 3 hours a day and you've had them for a week, we're going to email them because something's not right. You probably should be wearing them more. After that, it's not our problem anymore. We aren't trying to step in the way. We're trying to provide information and make that connection closer so that the person who's responsible for providing care is continually able to connect with the patient. And then finally they can go, here's our web view, so you can quickly go up here, you can see this patient, here's Jane Smith, you can see the different ratings they've done, you can see their overall satisfaction, so you kind of have all this data. And you have this without the patient ever coming in. This is almost sent to the healthcare provider, but it's sent to them not just randomly, but it's sent to them because there's a need. And then finally, there's the initial product, which is the fitting software, that's the desktop software. So now, during an actual visit, during a follow-up appointment, you can also see all that data here. So we've kind of connected the loop from that perspective. So yeah, I just said, so we've completed a data loop. A healthcare provider onboards a patient. The patient can enter data. The data is provided back to the provider. And then the healthcare provider can use that data in the next clinical visit, or even prior to the next clinical visit. They can pick up the phone and they can call and say, hey, how's it going? Because I have a reason to believe that maybe life isn't, maybe these aren't working quite as well as we hoped they would. They can be very proactive from that perspective. One thing Peter didn't mention in his presentation is that because of the price and other factors, just because people put on hearing aids doesn't actually mean they're going to buy them. There's a trial period for hearing aids. And it's very common that people will try hearing aids but ultimately not purchase the hearing aids and not make that step that they need in order to improve their lives. So this is an opportunity, particularly during those early days, to hopefully reach out to people and catch problems. If for some reason they're not wearing these hearing aids that they should be wearing, to reach out to them sooner and improve the situation. There's a lot more to the system, of course. I was told I have 15 minutes, so I just kind of gave a quick overview. Of course, our system's has a lot more pieces than that, but that kind of gives the high-level overview. So then I thought maybe I'd talk for a few minutes about some of the challenges we faced in doing this. We've been at this for about 3 years now, and we run into a lot of challenges. The first challenge that I kind of hinted at earlier is that frankly our initial versions had some really poor usability. Some of those were technical things we couldn't do anything about, some of those were poor technical decisions we made, and some of them were just learnings that we had over time. So as an example, our initial hearing aids, when we started this process, the hearing aids didn't actually have Bluetooth in them. The hearing aids were wireless, they had a wireless connection, but it wasn't a Bluetooth connection. So there was actually an accessory you had to hang around your neck, a bit like this one, that would take the Bluetooth signal and then translate that to go up to the hearing aids. You can imagine most people, if they're already complaining they don't want to wear hearing aids because it makes them look old, they don't want to walk around something like this or something like that. So, but that was something we knew and we accepted going forward. We also had software with, where you'd have to go to 3 or 4 different screens and press all kinds of buttons in order to turn this feature on for people. Maybe it wasn't always obvious if you were logged in or what your username was and these kinds of things. We had a lot of usability issues. On the patient side as well, our app wasn't always as easy to use. It wasn't always as easy for them to onboard and sign up for this feature, etc. So there was a lot of learning that we had with regard to the usability early on in our process. Yeah, of course, we aren't done. Still, I would say that the feature that we have today, although we're really proud of it, and it's pretty awesome. I love to talk about it anytime I can. It's the long-term vision. Of course, we have greater plans. I think right now we have a pretty good system in place, and that we're able to collect data. We're able to inform people about the data. We're starting to be pretty good at even maybe predicting when there are potential problems, and then we provide people with data and information. But we don't really help people solve problems. We aren't really very good yet at helping identify solutions. To do that though, we could start doing some of that now, but really in order to do that, we need more data. So we need more people to use these systems so that we can collect more data and start being able to do large-scale big data type analysis in order to figure out what will actually improve outcomes. So I think, although we can start with some simple algorithmic type things in terms of proposing solutions, we're still a ways away, I think, from being able to do more intelligent type proposals. And some of that's maybe technology based, but I think more of that is just that you can't start off doing analysis of your customers. You first need them to use your systems so you can collect it. So it's a bit of a chicken and the egg scenario that we've run into from that perspective. And this isn't uncommon. This is a common thing that companies run into when they're trying to do larger data analysis type systems. Yeah, data privacy. Everyone cares about data privacy, which, don't get me wrong, is really cool. We've all seen the Facebook fiasco of the last several months. So it's really good that people care about their data privacy and their data security. We're dealing with healthcare data. People care about that stuff. But it's also not easy. It's hard. Properly dealing with data privacy is really hard. Of course, if you want to drop usability, it becomes easy. You can just ask for permission for people for their data every click, but then nobody will use your system. So it's really hard to find to combine these systems so that people want to use what you have, but you're still able to get the permission from them, and transparently, of course, we're not trying to trick anybody. It also requires, we spent countless hours working with our data privacy experts and legal team for the system that we just generated. We basically had to go through and take this entire system, take each and every piece of data. We had to document it. We had to describe how it's stored, how it's secure, how long that data will live, why we need it, because you can't collect it unless you have a good reason for it. And each piece of data that we're collecting and that we have in this system, we have to do that with and show why we're allowed to have that data as part of the system. So it was a huge amount of work to be able to go through and justify how we're able to deal with people's sensitive personal healthcare data, because that's what this is. People want to know that you're being careful with it. But in doing this, we've ensured that we're compliant with all the various regulations and laws around the world. But it is, as I mentioned, it is hard to do that with the usability side of things as well, and still have a system which is easy and friendly to use. The initial version that we had, the 1.0 version, was essentially an anonymous system. We had no personal data in our entire system architecture, but there were also a lot of technical limitations that came out of that. There were things we couldn't do. Yeah, I mean, it was mentioned earlier that this is a fairly big company. We have 2 or 3 billion annually in sales worldwide. Our head office in Switzerland, and this is very much an incremental type feature that we've developed. This isn't the kind of thing you can just come out and release the world's best thing in one go. And I think there were a lot of challenges more internally with these kinds of things. We had different expectations internally in terms of what was being released, how close this was to an amazing thing rather than simply being something that we can use for learning. Even at a technical level, at an R&D level, you could go to other teams and say, this is what we want to do, and they'd kind of say, we have a plan for you. Give us 3 years. It's like, no, we don't have 3 years, we're putting this out in a year. Let us know what your plan is, and we'll take that into account. But people aren't necessarily prepared, particularly in larger organizations, for this type of incrementalism. People count in millions of dollars or thousands of units, not in a few hundred users here or there that can help you learn how to improve a system. So I think these sorts of challenges are significant in a large-scale organization. And those, I think, that was the last one I had. There are other challenges, of course. We ran into all kinds of issues, but those are a few of the ones I decided about. So hopefully that made some sense, and you guys got a bit of a sense of what a patient monitoring system can look like in an industry like your healthcare. Thank you.
So, do I take it, pardon my naivety, are these class 2 medical devices? Pardon? Are these class 2 medical devices?
Correct.
You can.
Yes.
Now, obviously you started off as a technology company, but in some ways, I mean, through everything you've described, I mean, you've got into becoming real experts in, data privacy, encryption, HIPAA compliance and that kind of thing. Which is probably not something that a company could possibly have anticipated 50, 60 years ago.
Certainly not, and I think it's been a transition for us as well. One of the things we're very, very good at, that we've been doing for many, many years, jumping into new areas is a technical challenge as well.
Yeah.
We did a lot of learning as well. There were times when we overdid it on the privacy thing, where we created more security than was necessary. For sure.
I think the reason for mentioning it here is that I and I think many people in this room do come into contact with a number of tech startups in Kitchener Waterloo, and I think sometimes there's this view that they're each individually having to consider HIPAA and encryption and that kind of stuff. The reality is that now there are a number of organisations, of which you are one, that have actually got quite expert in that, and obviously without giving anything away, at least can probably guide people in terms of which routes not to go down, and save themselves time in that kind of thing. So, very interesting. Thank you.